What if the barefoot shoes you just bought had hidden flaws that you didn't know about? After wearing barefoot shoes for over 2 years and trying over 30 pairs, I've learned there are some ugly truths about barefoot shoes that you don't always know when you start. In this video, I'm going to go over the 5 ugly truths that I've learned over my barefoot journey. There'll be things that I've learned from when I purchased my first pair of barefoot shoes, when I started my transition over to them, and things I've learned even after a few years of wearing barefoot shoes. So let's quickly go over what makes a barefoot shoe. Now, I've made a whole other video on this, so I'll link that below. But very quickly, they have 3 main characteristics. The first being a wide toe box, the second being from heel through to toe, no drop, they're on the same plane, and then the third being very flexible, like this shoe from Vivo Barefoot here called the Primus Light Knit. And yes, they do have benefits, which I'm not going to go fully into in this video, such as allowing your toes to fully splay and more stability when you're walking or at the gym. Now, you might tell me, Ryan, I'm ready for this barefoot thing. I'm sold on the benefits. Let's do it. But aren't all barefoot shoes toe shoes? And that's where the first ugly truth comes in. They are ugly. There is no secret. They can be ugly. That actually put me off switching over to barefoot shoes for years. They can look clown or duck-like. They have a very wide toe box, which is very off-putting for a lot of people. So this is spearheaded by toe shoes, or the Vibram 5 fingers of the world. Additionally, barefoot sandals, in my opinion, don't look very good either. More often than not, whether you're using barefoot shoes casually, at the gym, in the office, they're gonna look out of place, and that's just something you have to accept. Now, these are getting better, but they are difficult to find. Let's take a few examples here, and the first one is a gym shoe from Vivo Barefoot, their Motus Strength. Now, this isn't the worst looking shoe in the world, but it definitely isn't the best. It is very odd and unique. In my opinion, it is okay, isn't a great looking shoe, but a lot of people think this looks extremely strange. Additionally, the shoe from Zero, the Prio, in my opinion, is not a great looking shoe. The black does look slightly better. I'm yet to test these. Not looking forward to how these are going to look in the gym. So what can we do about it? Well, in my opinion, I try to find shoes that look decent looking on this channel and review them for everyone here. An example of that is a shoe from Vivo Barefoot, the Gobi Sneaker. Now, this is their premium version. In my opinion, is one of the better or best looking barefoot shoes out there. Additionally, we have a shoe from a smaller brand called Project One. This shoe is a lot more retro looking, and you would even think it's barefoot. So make sure you subscribe below to get reviews on better looking barefoot shoes, and let me know in the comments below if you disagree on my opinion there. Okay, so you found a shoe that you like and actually looks decent, and now you're ready to buy, but you're saying, hold on, Ryan, what the f? How are these so expensive? Yes, you're right. These can be really expensive. For instance, this shoe goes for over 200 USD, and I get the opinion of a lot of people. I was in the same boat. You think it doesn't have much of a sole, has very minimal upper, you're actually paying for a lot less. How can they be so expensive? Another example of this is a shoe from Vivo Barefoot, their Prius Flow. Now, this is a running shoe. I believe this goes for around 180 USD, which is a lot of money when, look, you're not really getting much at all. Now, understand the technology in the uppers, but there isn't much of a sole as well. And for the same money, you can get a traditional running shoe, such as this shoe here. I don't use this anymore, but is the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4, which costs roughly around the same price. You're getting a lot more technology in the sole, as well as a plate, lots of R&D that the companies had to do. How can this shoe and the Primus Flow cost the exact same amount? However, there are a few things that I've learned to take into consideration for the barefoot shoe world. Firstly is economies of scale. Simply, even Vivo Barefoot is the biggest barefoot brand on the market. They are nowhere near the size of some of these other brands such as Asics, Nike, Adidas, so they simply don't have the economies of scale. Secondly, the main one is around the construction. So on the sole of the shoe, you need new and additional technology to be able to make sure that it is this flexible, unlike regular shoes. Secondly is the lasts on the shoe. They're very different to regular shoes, and that can actually cost a lot of money for factories to set up, as it's not a traditional last at all. Additionally, with Vivo Barefoot, they are using a lot of premium materials. I can't remember what materials are in this, but for instance, their RA uses leather without metallics, which does increase the price. And I know Vivo Barefoot use a lot more sustainable materials, which does increase that price. But additionally, we have to accept this is a really small niche in comparison to the total footwear industry. But the problem is that does add to the switching costs for people. It's hard for them to break into the niche and try barefoot shoes when the starting price can be so high, such as over 200 USD for these shoes. So what can we do about that? Well, I've learned that there are a few tricks. The first is from a site called revivo.com. Now this is owned by Vivo Barefoot, so you do buy secondhand shoes, and there are a few other brands that'll pop up onto the screen that do the same thing. And I usually find you can get good deals here. Yes, you're not getting the latest model, but you're getting a very good quality shoe for often nearly half the price. For instance, the Motor Strength, which I just showed previously, you can find that on revivo.com for 100 USD less. I've used this a few times and often have really good quality shoes that I get from that site. Secondly, you can go for cheaper footwear brands such as Freet, Barbaric, Zero, and that Project One shoe that I showed you, that was in the low 100 USD mark. Thirdly, there are a lot of websites around that do good buying guides on all these shoes. One of them is Anya's Review, so go check those out. They usually give good discount codes and tell you when sales are on. One final tip here is don't buy all the new shoes at once. Something I found when I transitioned over from regular shoes to barefoot shoes was that your feet do change over time. So you might be in the same boat, so take the transition slowly build up your collection of barefoot shoes that you do need. Okay, so you found a shoe that you like, a shoe that isn't too pricey. Now you come into a problem, and that is variety. Because there are extremely small brands in this industry, you often lack a lot of choice in terms of shoes that look good, price, but also on shipping requirements and sizing requirements. I found this incredibly difficult. For instance, I am a US size 13. I'm often looking on websites and they don't sell my size. Additionally, I often have to size down as they don't have my shoe. I was looking for an office shoe recently and came up with this shoe. I had to size down one size, and I couldn't go for other brands that I were looking for in office shoes such as Groundies and Birchbury, because either was high shipping costs to increase that price back up through to a higher price, or they simply didn't deliver to where I live in Hong Kong. Okay, so you finally bought a pair of barefoot shoes. They look great. They're at a decent price. You're saying, Ryan, let's reap the benefits. Let's get into this barefoot business. Well, hold on. This is where you do need to be patient and take it slow. Take it really slowly. You've been wearing regular shoes for years, and switching over to barefoot shoes can have different stresses and impacts on your body. Now, I'm not a physio or a doctor, so I'm not going to advise you exactly how to transition. And I'll link some good information in the description below, so you need to educate yourself. But I do have a little bit of advice here. Take it slow, listen to your body. Some people will transition very quickly over, some people will take a bit longer, and that's perfectly fine. The last thing you want to be doing is causing an injury to yourself and ditching barefoot shoes altogether. It does take time to reap all of these benefits. So you're taking time to transition. You're going, Ryan, I'm fully into this. I've fully transitioned over. I'm loving this barefoot stuff. Great. Now this is where you learn some other things, and that is actually the minimalism of the shoe. Now there've been multiple times where I've been stubbing my toe outside, or when I'm running or walking and landing on a sharp rock. It's not a nice feeling sometimes, just something you're gonna have to put up with, or sometimes go for a more minimalist shoe. Additionally, our bodies aren't designed to actually walk on concrete and tarmac. Our ancestors actually walked barefoot on much softer and more natural surfaces. So sometimes your feet do get banged up by using them all the time. Pains can be part of it, and you're not willing to put up with that. You can go for other wide toe box shoe options or more minimalist shoe with a bit more padding. Additionally, when they're so minimal, they're not always going to protect you from extreme elements. When it's really hot or cold, the normal shoes don't have as much insulation, even though there are specialty barefoot shoes that do exist. But those are often very expensive again. So that leads you back to one of the first problems of barefoot shoes. So overall here, you just need to realize that barefoot shoes are a tool. They're not going to fit every situation, and you need to use what works for you. Don't be wearing barefoot shoes at a construction site or there's nails and sharp objects around. That would just be silly, and you're opening yourself out to risks there. Remember, transition slowly, listen to your body. Make sure you subscribe for more buying advice and barefoot shoe and wide toe box shoe reviews. If you like the video, give it a like, and I'll leave you with one question. Is the issue barefoot shoes making too minimal shoes, or is the issue the conventional shoe industry making more shoe-shaped shoes? Let me know in the comments below.